Good morning, good people. My name is Tim Daplyn. This is the second of my weekly offerings as a virtual pilgrim chaplain at Santiago de Compostela. This past week, thanks be to God for electronic media, I've been able to share in the safe arrival in Santiago of a dear friend, Peter. Now, he and I have known each other since childhood and so have shared a fair amount of history. Despite the challenges posed by pandemic to international pilgrimage, he had persisted in his intention to earn his Compostela the hard way, on foot, from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, following the yellow arrows of the Camino Francés. It's now 5 years since I completed that self-same journey, and I could easily picture my friend's last few kilometres from Opetroso, past La Pacola and the modern airport, ascending, descending Monte de Gozo, and then following those pavement scallop shells in through the suburbs and up to the cathedral itself, and exchanging his credencial in the pilgrim office for his certificate of completion. Mission accomplished. And of course, he's now planning his return home and all those worrisome quarantine regulations. As I followed Peter's footsteps in my mind's eye this week, memories of my own Camino experience were awakened. Specifically, I saw with great clarity some of the graffiti that, according to one's prevailing mood and the ingenuity of the original artist or author, had the ability to either to inspire or, sadly more frequently, to appall us pilgrims along the way. This morning, though, I'd like to share with you just some of the wayside writing that served to uplift me and take my mind temporarily away from the more immediate anxieties, the aches and the blisters. At the time, I suppose, they assumed something of the significance of that line in Paul Simon's song, The Sound of Silence. The words of the prophet are written on subway walls and tenement halls. In reverse order, and in terms of their location, the following are my top 3 favourites. The first of them is, or was, on the final stretch through the eucalyptus groves as you approach Santiago itself. The Friends of the Camino had placed large litter bins, trash cans, at regular intervals along that busy path. Each bin was inscribed with a stanza from John Lennon's song, Imagine. And 5 years ago, as I limped past each successive verse, each bin, towards my physical goal, the words became something of a personal mantra. Here's an abbreviated version, but I hope you'll get the impression. On the first bin, in black felt tip pen, imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us, only sky. And here there's a pause for puffing and panting on my part before I reach the next instalment on the next bin. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Another pause, more struggle. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Yet more laboured breathing. You may say that I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And then to the finale. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. And amen, I said and say aloud for that kind thought, through the sweat and some tears. My second graffiti choice was from a much earlier stage in the pilgrimage, where the route of the Camino crosses and recrosses one of Spain's new motorways. Literally inscribed on a subway wall was what amounted to a poetic installation. It was the text of a familiar poem, well, familiar to me, by R.S. Thomas, a Welsh priest poet, famous for his questing faith journey, in which he seemed to be aware as much of the absence of God as by his presence. He titled it The Other. It's quite short, so I'll quote it in full. The Other. There are nights that are so still that I can hear the small owl calling far off and a fox barking miles away. It's then that I lie in the lean hours awake, listening to the swell born somewhere in the Atlantic, rising and falling, rising and falling, wave on the long shore by the village that is without light and companionless. And the thought comes of that other being who is awake too, letting our prayers break on him, not like this, for a few hours, but for days, years, for eternity. I wondered then, and I wonder now, who was inspired to place that poem there? But sincerely, I thank God that they did so. And my final and favourite offering came at a moment of real personal anxiety on my journey. Like many others, I'd gone too far, too fast, far too early for my body to properly adapt to the demands of daily walking. I wasn't sleeping well, drinking all the wrong sorts of liquids, and with alarming suddenness, I ground to a halt. With acute joint and muscle pain, I was stopped in my tracks, and I thought that my pilgrimage was over, and bitterly contemplated the abandonment of my journey. Limping along an exposed stretch of Roman road under a scorching sun, I was feeling very, very sorry for myself. And then I saw it. It was a small sign indicating a hunting preserve in Spanish, but which also bore a terse instruction written in English. Don't quit before the miracle. Don't quit before the miracle. So I didn't. Soon afterwards, from along the way, I picked up discarded, broken broom handle and a piece of a tree branch to serve as makeshift walking poles, and I persisted to the next town where I could get help. Then, rested, recuperated, with pharmaceutical assistance and advice, I readjusted my plans, mended my habits, journeyed on. don't quit before the miracle. This could be our watchword for today in this time of international and personal anxiety. Do let's hold on to our dreams. Like John Lennon, imagine a better future where the new normal might be a spirit of unity and peace for all peoples on the earth. And with the poet R.S. Thomas, in the real isolation of insomnia, loss, bereavement that can threaten to engulf us at times, may we be aware of that other being, however we may conceive of them, who keeps vigil with us and has infinite capacity to allow all of our cares, all of our concerns, to break on him for all eternity. Amen. And may God give you peace. Amen.